A good evening, this is the Nerd as the Human and welcome to this guide for Rome Total War. 5 top tips and features for siege battles. This is the third video in the mini-series where I have already looked at tips, tricks and features on both the campaign map and for the battlefield, but today our focus is solely on sieges. As ever, though in no particular order, we begin at number 1. Number 1. Walls and towers can be turned against the defenders. Whilst in Medieval 2, towers are only active when the defenders' units are near, in Rome they are all active until taken over by the opposing faction, allowing you to shoot them down with their own towers. Depending on the city design, you'll likely need some fast moving fodder to take a good chunk of the walls if you want to avoid unnecessary losses. In this scenario, running them works well as it spreads out troops so less get killed as they run along from tower to tower. This is an excellent way of pushing the defenders off the walls, as the towers will shred any units down below. The AI usually stays off the walls once towers and gateways are captured, but they do send units to guard the gateway, essentially leaving them to die from the towers if you refuse to get off the walls and engage them. Whether attacking or defending, note whether the arrow slits face across the walls or just outwards. You should carefully prioritise where to guard, as walls can be phenomenally destructive, and particularly when defending, keeping them in control for as long as possible is very much preferable. Number 2. Pathfinding. City pathfinding is pretty notorious. This reputation is generally due to awkward placing of troops and formation nearby to buildings. Cavalry in particular act like lunatics and get themselves caught far more often than you may expect. This is made worse as you scale up the unit sizes. In this example here, the horses still circle about for no apparent reason. Using the shift key is, however, a useful way to add clarity to your instructions. It is easy to accidentally send your units past enemy towers and get them shredded. You can avoid this by pressing shift, where you will see a red cone icon appear, and then you can tell a unit to go via one location to the next, and thus to only pass through safe zones where I have already captured the towers. As I speed this up, you can see it in action, and this saves me from unnecessary losses whilst I get all of my units into position by the plaza. This is helpful to avoid the outer towers too when sending cavalry around the outside of the city, and can obviously be easily applied to the regular battlefield. In this example here, I send some Gallic cavalry units around the side using shift before circling in to attack the exposed siege equipment at the rear. Three. Different cultures have strengths and weaknesses to their city design. There's no secret tactic here, but it's something to be conscious of before a siege. For example, depending on the entrance you're attacking, Roman and Greek level 4 cities have tedious long paths to the plaza and are awkward to assault. As we saw in number 1, you'll have to run your men along the walls to open a safe passage. But in Roman and Greek level 4 cities, there is a vast amount of wall to traverse safely, and extra losses are inevitable. Of course, when defending, it's worth noting that the AI doesn't take the walls before slowly walking past them to the plaza, and so they will take heavy losses. Even after giving up a frontal assault, there's plenty of room for a missile trap along the way. Moreover, the tight entrances to the plaza make it awkward to get your troops set for an assault without triggering a countercharge, and thus it can be hard to set bait traps. Unless you set up your assault carefully, the two small approaches often negate numerical advantages, whilst keeping defenders safely on the plaza and thus safe from routing. Though be aware that even this design has its downsides. The plaza is not central and is in range of the heavy onager. This was genuinely a first take, and I am delighted by that. Meanwhile, level 5 Romano-Greek cities are much easier to assault with a sizable plaza just before the main plaza, allowing you to set your brutal trap. However formidable, all cities will likely have weak spots where siege towers and ladders are fairly safe for approach, so keep an eye out for them. Enough of the Roman and Greek cities, and instead let's look at the Eastern Carthaginian and Egyptian style cities, which are near copies of each other with only aesthetic differences. They all have fairly direct routes to the plaza, so there's less tower abuse than the Romano-Greek cities, but they have tight streets to utilise their phalanx spearmen, except for Numidia I guess. Utilising your city and faction strengths is a key advantage to consider. Lastly, the barbarians, who have fairly open settlements and lack the ability to build stone walls, but they are the only culture to get high ground within the settlement. These can make up for their lack of walls to some extent, as your archers can rain death from above and units can charge downhill for that brutal charge. Finally, remember to use the View Settlement option on the campaign screen to tour your town and understand your city's defences better before battle. This way you can choose your units more appropriately and keep working on those marginal gains. Number 4. Siege battles with allies. Be very aware that fighting along with an ally isn't simply a race to capture the plaza. The important thing is that whoever launches the siege assault will take the city. Knowing this, you can join your ally in besieging a city, such as here in Mediolanum. Then, so long as you begin the assault yourself, the city will fall to you in victory. Here, my Julii allies not only started the siege, but did all the work in the battle itself, with me hiding at the rear, yet I take the city because I launched the assault. In an alternative universe, you may find that the enemy sally out to attack. Now, neither of the besiegers is launching the assault this time, so you may be curious as to what happens if we defeat our foe. As the battle begins, you'll notice that my allies arrive as reinforcements, which may give you a hint to the result. I was going to let my allies do all the work, but annoyingly they wouldn't breach the walls. Therefore, I headed in and routed the army to victory, taking care to not take the plaza. Lo and behold, the city fell to me, and not the Julii, because I was the army that was attacked in the sally. In this instance, the AI choice of target decided who could win the city. In theory, fighting with your allies is great for your relationship, but this is Rome Total War, so speak of workable diplomacy is a bit of a mute one. However, one strategy I saw employed by many a true nerd is to fight with your so-called allies, so that the manual battle will see the AI take more losses than it would from the auto-resolve. The army took ridiculous losses from both the outer and inner walls, and soon enough I saw that they were going to lose. It was time for me to withdraw in hilarious disgrace. It may not always be so effective as this, but it was certainly amusing. Just for confirmation that this tactic was effective, I reloaded and tried the auto-resolve. This led to a clear victory. Sabotage and allies is definitely a ploy, my friends. Number 5. Siege towers. Firstly, be aware that towers assaulting level 4 cities can cause a bug, where siege towers then can't be climbed, or at least without excessive time and clicking. So save before battle or bring extra, because this bug renders the units virtually useless. Secondly, these siege towers increase in size and power alongside the walls, so level 4 and 5 walls face ballista towers, and thus defending large or epic stone walls can be a major disadvantage should you plan to man the wall. Often it is better to simply guard key choke points in your city, or to dash men onto the wall as the tower gets too close to shoot anymore. With luck, your troops arrive in time to defend against the onslaught. Bearing in mind the brutality of ballista towers, if you're the one attacking manned walls, use some towers as ballista platforms, even if you have no intent of actually fighting with them. You can man them with fodder so you don't lose important troops, but these dummy towers can still cause a lot of damage and potentially eat the fire arrows that may set your real towers ablaze. On which note, when you're defending against a sally, remember that you can activate your tower missile option. They're not only good buffers against the charge, but they'll shoot your enemies down in hilarious fashion, particularly if they're ballista towers. Essentially, you get bonus missile units, so make good use of them in this scenario. That is it for today. Do comment below on any other tips, tricks or features that you think are especially useful, fun or just interesting. We will see more guides and miscellaneous videos on Fridays in the near future, and if you'd like to support the channel so that I can continue to increase the volume of my content, then do become a channel member on YouTube, support through Patreon or indeed Ko-fi. Links are in the description below. For now, I will leave you. I am Thomas, this is The Nerds to Human. Thank you friends, and bye bye. They're all queuing up to fight them. These are truly the British rebels right here. War cry and charge at the dogs of war. Oh, they're routing again. What are you doing, my silly trumpet? They're actually taking on my reinforcements! Welcome to the Rebel Experience, ladies and gents.